Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thanks for joining me for another of our Shabbat Torah learning groups things. I'm sure I have a better name for that, but it is escaping my mind right now. Whatever. Anyway, but welcome back. Just glad you made it. We're going to begin, as we always do, taking the news, putting it off to the side. I've got my mini kippot. I'm thinking today I'm going to wear this international one, this Israel and American flag kippah. And we got our Tanakh. Before we get started on reading and studying, we've got our blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. So, today is a very special Torah portion. It is called Yitro, but it is actually, Yitro is Jethro, which is Moses' father-in-law, who's not Jewish, and he doesn't convert. He's still a very important character. It's very interesting that he has a Torah portion named after him. Even more interesting is the portion named after him has the 10 Commandments, which are obviously very, very important. But for whatever reason, the people who wrote and titled the Torah portions decided to give that honor to Jethro. He has an important part in the story. But today, we're actually going to talk about a moment that happens immediately after the 10 Commandments are given to the people. Let me make sure I found the right spot. Here it is. Okay, cool. So, this is immediate, like, God gives the 10 Commandments, and then this happens. All the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the blare of the horn, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they fell back and stood at a distance. You speak to us, they said to Moses, and we will obey. But let not God speak to us, or else we will die. Moses answered the people, Be not afraid, for God has come only in order to test you, and in order that the fear of God may be ever with you, so that you do not go astray. So the people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick cloud where God was. So that's an interesting part where the people receive the 10 Commandments because God says it. And they hear it. They hear it as, what did it say? Thunder and lightning and blare of a horn, and there's a mountain and it's smoking, which I guess is kind of like a volcano. That's probably the best analogy we can come up with, at least. But obviously Mount Sinai is not a volcano. So, but then the people say, oh, that was sort of too much. That was a lot of interaction. That was a lot of closeness with God. And that was kind of scary and a little overwhelming. Moses, we would like you to be in between us to help interpret what God says so that we can hear it from a person, which might be more comfortable, rather than hearing it straight from the source, which may be a little overwhelming. And this is largely where the idea of a rabbi comes from, is that a rabbi's goal is to help a congregation interpret Torah, interpret what some would say is God's words, and make it something applicable to a person's life. And so, but it's interesting that the Torah has this part where the people say, we don't want to hear from God directly. We would like an intermediary. It's sort of them giving up a lot of power. It's them saying, we could hear it straight from the source, but that's a lot going on. And we would rather just hear, maybe give us the cliff notes of what God's saying. I don't know if that's exactly a good analogy, but I like that idea of just someone is hearing the stuff and giving it to the people. On the one hand, as I said, it's sort of like getting rid of some power and saying, maybe we don't want to be as responsible as we should. But it's also a good way of saying, there are some people who know things and are better able at interpreting things than us, and we should listen to those people. Moses has been talking to God for several decades at this point in the story. And so the people have less experience with God. And of course, their experience is being slaves. They're now going to be free, which is great. But they don't have the experience of hearing from God and hearing God's commandments, hearing the mitzvot. And when they hear it, it's overwhelming. So they want Moses to help kind of interpret things, to help them understand what's going on. And I think that this is a really great Jewish value of valuing experts, listening to experts. Obviously, experts nowadays with the pandemic is like doctors and scientists and stuff like that. But it really applies to anything. There's a lot of knowledge in the world and a lot of things that we might be interested in, but that we're never going to become experts in. For example, I recently got a chia pet as a gift. I don't really know anything about planting, so I looked online and I looked up how to do it, and I followed the instructions, and we'll see how it turns out. I just did it a few days ago. It takes a little bit, but because I looked it up and because I trusted what I looked up, I was able to plant this plant without needing to put in years and years and years of learning how to become a gardener. I don't really want to do that, but I do want to know enough to take care of this particular plant, this chia pet that someone gave me. And I'm sure there are a lot of things that you are very interested in, but you're not an expert in. There are some things you are, but maybe you're really interested in, God, I don't know, there are so many topics. Weather, let's say. Weather's actually a great example. We just had that big snowstorm. And we knew about this snowstorm not because we're all meteorologists or climatologists, but because we watched the news, because we watch weather programs, or because we have it on our phone. And we say, okay, I don't need to know everything about the weather, but I just need enough so when it pops up on my phone, it says winter storm warning, and I know what that means, and I know what I have to do. Winter storm warning, it doesn't tell me what to do with the warning, but I know winter storm warning means I need a shovel. I should have food already where I live. It means that I should be prepared to make sure that the heating is working. Just kind of make sure everything that I need is ready. So when a storm comes, I don't need to know why it comes. I don't need to know the weather patterns that lead up to it. I don't need to know the exact temperature and how that's measured. I just need to know what's useful for me. And there's a lot of information in the world, and it can be really overwhelming, as it was to the people of Israel to hear God for the first time. And I think it's a really great learning opportunity and exercise in humility to say, I need more information than I can probably understand. I'm going to use experts in various ways to help me live my best life. And in return, I'm the expert in whatever particular thing is. I guess for me, it would be Judaism and Star Wars. And if those are things you're interested about, I'm happy to talk about it. But other things, I don't know as much. So I got to rely on other people. And that's a good basis for society, that everyone has value, everyone has expertise. And if we listen to each other as a society, as a group, we know a lot more than we could if we all had to learn that stuff all on our own. So with that in mind, time for our Misha Berach. It is the healing prayer. So if you know someone who needs some healing, maybe it's you, maybe it's someone else. Hopefully they don't have COVID, but if they do, now's a good time to think about them, pray for them. Maybe they're sick of something else. Maybe they have, some pandemic fatigue. It's been tough, especially now with the weather as bad as it is. Maybe they got a vaccine lately and their arm's really sore, or maybe you did. And, however you want to interpret this, it's just a good time to sit, reflect, think about someone in your life. Maybe remember to give them a call afterwards if you're able to. If that's not the case, if everyone you know is good and healthy, great. Maybe try to figure out what your expertise is and what expertise of the other people in your life are that you depend on, and how you can be grateful to them and thank them for that. Here we go. So, thank you all again for joining me for this Torah study session. Hope to see you again next week. If you have any questions about the portion, anything you want to talk about, or maybe something else, feel free to email me at the Jewish Life email address. And otherwise, take care and Shabbat Shalom.